Okay, we just thought that we would hang out in the back of the ute, not actually in it, but sort of around it. And this is Sarah Fee from Biologics, and I just wanted to describe where she came up with the name because it's such a cool name. Thanks for joining me, Sarah.
My pleasure, Tamsin. So I guess being Sarah, I often got called Bear as a young person, so I guess Bear was synonymous with me. And then one day doodling, I worked out that, I could say Bear Essential Agricultural Resource, and then I've added management biologically, so I'm pretty big on my biology. So that's.
And I see it's a periodic table, the BE and AR stand for something, so I just love the name.
Well, the connection, biology and chemistry together, they're needed together.
Yeah, and that's really important for the quality of our food, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And how does it work? So is it just about adding chemistry, or is there something else that's really important as well?
Well, we're working out now that actually 85-90% of the actual processes involved in getting nutrition into our soil is biologically mediated. So they're involved in that process somehow and essential. So for us to actually get food that's nutrient dense and full of integrity and actually our medicine, as it was, once deemed, and hopefully we will do that again, think of it that way. We've got to have all those attributes in there. So, and the microbiome is our workforce that literally does that role. That's their job. So we've got to give them back their job, basically. And we're working out that that's the link between us and the soil, or in an animal, that every surface, inside and out, there's a microbiome there doing its thing that has a specific function. A lot of that we don't understand necessarily, but we need to embrace it and acknowledge it and aim for creating diversity wherever we can.
Because that's the issue at the moment. We all seem to be scared of bacteria, and it's sanitize everything and wipe down all of our surfaces and don't breathe on people and all that. And what's that actually doing?
Well, we're actually making the environment ideal for some individuals or communities that we actually don't want to give the upper hand to. So we actually want strength in diversity. We actually want the message to go out through the quorum to rally together, like we would expect in a community here in town, that if some crime's going on, we want the community to rally and support us, and that's what we're actually trying to have happen either in the soil, on the plant surface even, or in our own bodies. Or our animals, So it's actually having the diversity, giving them all their jobs, that they actually create immunity and security and resilience. So when a stress event comes, they've got others that they can call out to for help. Yeah.
So it's actually quite good that, with the plant side of it, to be stressed to a certain level with regards to actually trying to find things that it needs, whether it's the fungi or the protozoa or the bacteria or whatever else is happening in the soil.
Yeah, and I guess, who knows if stress is the right word, because often that puts a negative twist on it, but it's that need, to grit in and actually be at a point where you're willing to say help, or knowing that this is my role, and for me to perform at my best, I actually need these other organisms or people, depending on what community we're thinking about, to make me be my best. So plants are the same. They actually call out for the nutrients they want, for, putting it in terms that we humans understand. We don't even fully understand what's going on there. It's a chemical message, perhaps, energy. I'm pretty big on, understanding that all of this, why we eat, is actually all transference of energy, basically, from the pool of energy in the soil right through, which a lot of it was captured from sunlight in the beginning. So free resources, sunlight, water, microherd, our microbiome, whatever surface, giving them what they need and supporting them as we would think we need to support our child or ourselves to be the best that they can be, their health to be the best it can be.
But not actually taking over, though. That support's got to be a little bit of a struggle.
Well, that's right. So I digressed there a bit. So what the struggle is that it's the bit that makes sure they reach out to actually get that support. And with having those greater support mechanisms in, whether that means they've got the mycorrhizal fungi networks happening on those, not only on the root systems, but actually on the mycorrhizal hyphae as well. We've got the rhizospheres, so we've got all those bacterial communities and protozoas and all sorts of things. You know, we're still unpacking what we understand there is going on. But they're all working in together, and we even know now that it's even a whole, microbe can be the whole little fella's going right in, and actually losing his outer cell wall, taking his coat off, and releasing whatever it is deemed that he was to release to the plant, and then the plant spits him out, slides him out a little tube, and it's actually the hair that forms. So then you've got that extra now, so it's actually affecting physiology of the plant. Yeah. So it's the structure of the plant. So we don't see those structures if we don't actually have the biology come into the plant. Yeah. So, we talk about doing genetic, plant breeding, whatnot, to influence root structures and design and things. Well, embrace the biology, give them back their job, and they are part of literally building structure, soil structure, as well as plant structure. Yeah.
See, we're at a crazy sort of phase, aren't we, where we are wanting to improve the seed or improve the plant genetically, but what we don't do or necessarily understand is exactly how to make that perform at its optimum level. So most of our plants are sort of performing, below par, really.
Well, that's right. I mean, Professor Huber often says that we've really only seen 20 to 30% of the full genetic potential of a crop, and yet we're still, we've parked that one because there's a new one. Yeah. So we're going to get seed of a new one that, meant to do this and that and the other, and we actually haven't accessed, literally accessed the full potential of what we've already got.
Yeah. I think that's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, and they've shown, like a colleague in the industry, so he's part of the nutrient, often the foliars and things that we can have access to that are in chelated form, and he was shown a trial site, and in that trial site they were asked, what do you think you're looking at here? And they thought, because of the variations that they saw, that it was actually a variety trial. So there was different varieties of corn, and it actually turned out to be a nutritional trial. And the difference between the leaf structure and the plant physiology that showed up, according to how it was looked after, was, made them think they were totally, looking
different
at different varieties.
Wow.
And in having said that, I guess some of the genetic link is actually there to the nutrition when you understand Richard Olray's work, because he literally has unravelled the minerals for the genetic code. So as they change things for some physical attribute, perhaps, in plant breeding, they could actually be changing the relationship to the response to the nutrition that we might put out there.
So would that be like more of a detrimental effect then?
Yes and no. I guess it's if they're unaware of how they're changing the genome from a nutritional perspective, quite possibly.
Right.
Quite possibly. They could actually be, I guess that's opening a can of worms. But, they do see certain varieties that I guess they're looking for more resilience to, or, to a disease, and have they ended up with that because it actually had more receptors for, say, copper. So they weren't fully understanding what they were looking at.
Yeah.
Perhaps.
So when we drive past a paddock that's shiny and green and beautiful and looks amazing on top, might not necessarily be a healthy crop. Is that right?
That's right. Yep. It could actually be, a couple of days away from a stress event and a collapse. Yeah.
Because of why?
Because it might be fueled by high nitrogen, because that's often number one that goes out there in high levels, but it pushes vegetative growth. So often if you haven't got the plant in sync, and so I call it like communicating with the environment around it, and understanding and having a good feel for what resources it has on hand, whether that's nutrient or moisture, and part of that it establishes by the microbiome chatter that it's getting, communication under the ground, so in the soil. So how well it sets up, and that's right from ignition, I'll call it ignition, of the seed, because in that moment it knows the microbiome within its seed, and from that microbiome there's an expectation, one way to try and put it, is of what it is going to be looking for in life. And so if it has had a synthetically fed, everything delivered welfare system, it's actually not got any perception perhaps or expectation of asking for help. Yeah. Because in the environment that it was grown, where its parentage was grown, they had everything they needed. Yeah. So they didn't actually look for those resources and that support mechanism. So if they actually made it through to seed, they did so without that support. And if you've got, and it didn't have any stresses, then it's got the misconception that I can do all right here. Yeah. And it's not resilient for when a stress comes as one that's got its, a fully functional microbiome.
And those plants then are passing that on to the next generation?
Potentially is a theory that we have, yeah.
And so the seeds are getting weaker and weaker?
Potentially, yep.
Yeah. And that's kind of, we can relate that to society in a way, where we're seeing more and more diseases, and this whole microbiome is really important in our gut. Can you explain a bit more about that in our health?
Well, I guess they're understanding more and more the direct relationship and the importance again of even our access to our nutrition being a microbiology, through the microbiology, so the microbiome is enabling how well we're even accessing our nutrients. Because are we actually feeding, so from a genetic perspective, and this is really, a bit hard to get our head around, really, from DNA, 1% of us is us. Yeah. 99% of our genetic material, DNA, is actually our microbiome. So when we choose what we're eating, we think, are we making fully in charge of that choice? Or is our microbiome to a point? Or when you lose connection with the messages from your microbiome, you're not looking after your body, because we really are feeding them and what they need, and then they gift to us. So, and it's the same thing happening in the soil. Really, we've got to make sure that right from the foundational group, which is the highest, massive number, is bacteria. Having said that, there's a huge number of viruses that, yes, have good function. This is about understanding function, not packaging things into categories of good or bad. But we've got to understand that I think we don't appreciate the function, and it might show up as a disease or something to us, which is again a bit of a stress, I suppose, and pokes us to research and wonder why they turned up. And it depends which rabbit hole you go down to, whether it's more holistic or it's more pharmaceutical as to your outcome, perhaps.
So how is this relating to sort of the overall health of society?
Well, I guess to use a statement, we literally are what we eat, aren't we? Yeah. So, we need to be informed consumers, because all of us are consumers, whether we're even food producers, we are still consumers, because we don't necessarily, there's some people that are very skillful at, having a very good veggie patch and whatnot, and a lot does happen at home, but there's still certain things that they'll outsource. So we're all consumers, so we need to understand, what are we looking for in our veggie and fruit? What do we need to be looking for? And what do we need to ask the butcher when we want to know, we want grass-fed beef, lamb. We want to know that how well their pastures were looked after. Was there no synthetics in the equation? Because that literally sets up even, part of it is literally the cellular's integrity, and then the energy gift it can give to our bodies. Yeah, so just pretty important.
Cycle.
Yeah, absolutely. All totally, interchange. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. That was really, really deep and meaningful and insightful, and I just love these conversations. So yes, if anybody's got any questions about Sarah and what she's doing, just contact her with Bear Biologics, and she'll be able to go in depth even more. Thanks, Sarah.
Always fun, Tenzin. Thank you.